In this video, we are revisiting a subject that we focused on before, and that is looking at the bandsaw and scroll saw. We're going to share our own experiences and thoughts on what is the right machine depending on what sort of woodworking you're doing. It's worth noting that we have both of these machines here at our family workshop and they are in daily use. For ourselves, the machine that gets the most use is the scroll saw. So let's get straight into the reasons for this. The bandsaw, by its very nature, is a continuous loop. This means it's ideal for cutting out surrounds or roughing out the outline shape of the projects that we make. However, this does limit us in the type of cuts that it can do. Its very design means it is unsuitable for doing any type of internal cuts. For ourselves then, this is the key area of difference that we focus on when looking at the scroll saw and the bandsaw. The scroll saw has the ability to be fed into a drill hole, and this allows us to do internal piercework cuts. By its very nature, the bandsaw is not able to do this. If you require a saw to do any type of internal cuts on the projects that you do, it's the scroll saw that you choose each and every time. Having said this, let's look at the reasons why you might choose to invest in a bandsaw as opposed to the scroll saw. As a general rule, most scroll saws are smaller and have a smaller blade than the bandsaw. This means that the bandsaw is more suitable for larger projects, and it is also, as a general rule, faster when it comes to cutting than the scroll saw. The downside of this is that the bandsaw leaves more saw marks in your projects than the scroll saw. This means more sanding and more finishing work after you are finished working on the bandsaw. If you are doing larger projects, if you are processing larger pieces of woods and you are roughing out projects ready, for instance, for doing wood carving, the bandsaw might be the better option. It cuts quicker, you can put more robust blades into it, and it might be more suitable for what you require. Having said all of this, my own personal preference, if I was going to choose between the two machines for the work that I do, I would select the scroll saw every time. It might be slower in the feed speed that it offers you, but its precision, accuracy, and fineness of finish that it gives you saves me many hours when it comes to the finishing after the work has been done on the saw. The key design difference where I am allowed to do that pierce work is ideal for the small gift-based items that I am making here at our workshop on a daily basis. Most of the work that I am doing is combining the skills of scroll sawing and wood carving together, and I find that because I am doing small scale projects, using the scroll saw and the hand carving skills together is a really good combination. It is worth noting there are different machines, so you can get smaller bandsaws, you can get larger scroll saws. This is taking an overall look at this debate. Additionally, sharing the way that I use the two machines, I will cut a project out on the bandsaw. I will then sand it on a belt sander afterwards, and then do any hand carving, hand sanding, and hand finishing that is required. If I am working on the scroll saw, I will do any pierce work that is required. First of all, I will cut the surrounds. If there is any shaping that is required, I will then work on the belt sander. Equally, if there is any carving required, I will work on the hand carving afterwards. But often when working on the scroll saw, I can go straight from the scroll saw, bypass the belt sander stage of the process of making, and at times I will also bypass the hand carving stage and go straight into the finishing process. This is why, for me personally, the scroll saw offers far more options in regards to the items that I make as opposed to the bandsaw. Another way to look at this debate, and that is in the context of time. In this context, I would actually favour the bandsaw over the scroll saw. The reason for this, the scroll saw takes time to practice and master, considerable time to learn the methods, the process, and the techniques to use the machine successfully. You can make basic projects and you can have success on the scroll saw from the outset, but in this context, the bandsaw is a lot more user-friendly. You can make those external cuts more effectively from the outset. That is another way to look at it, is in the context of time, and I would suggest in this context the bandsaw has the advantage over the scroll saw. You can also see this debate in terms of where you would use the two different types of saw. The bandsaw, I would say, is more suitable for medium to larger projects. The scroll saw then is more suitable for medium to smaller items. When it comes to safety, in this context, I would suggest that the scroll saw has the advantage. Whilst you can get a little nick from the blades, they're finer, they're smaller, it is more difficult to cut yourself badly on the scroll saw. But as with all things, it is possible. The bandsaw blade is thicker and stronger, and in this context, it is easier to have a cut from the blades. But if you're using it safely, your hands should be well away from the blade on both machines. So in summing up, for myself, the key differences between the bandsaw and the scroll saw starts and finishes with that basic difference when it comes to the design. The bandsaw is a fast cutting saw to work with, but it is limited to cutting those surrounds because the band continuous loop design in its very nature makes it unsuitable for doing internal cuts on any item that you are making. The scroll saw, in contrast, might have a slightly slower feed speed in general, but it is more accurate, precise, and has that ability to do those internal cuts on your projects. So there you have it. Those are some of my own thoughts and experiences of working with both a scroll saw and a bandsaw. If you've got any thoughts on this subject, if you have any ideas that I've overlooked in this video, it'll be great for everyone if you could share them with us. Thank you all again for watching, and as always, we'll be back again soon with more videos.